Okay, we're interviewing Donna Sandefer. I'm Steve Arney. We're at Marshall Public Library, May 1st, 2017. You may begin, Donna.
Now we begin. Well, I was born at home in York, just 2 blocks from the river. Doctor back then came to the house. And I lived there for 19 years. Then I moved to Florida. Lived there for a year and came back. I worked at TRW for a while, and then we moved again. Back when I was a kid, our chores were, we worked in the garden. We mowed the yard with an old push mower with the blades on it. And we helped feed the hogs. We helped feed the chickens. It's our duty to get the eggs. And we could hit with coal and cobs, and that was our chore to bring those in. I went to 4 different schools. I started out the first 4 grades at York, and the old York school is still there. People live in it. And
when were you born, Donna, if you don't mind telling us?
Where was I born?
When were you born in York?
Oh, September 15th, 1946.
1946, okay.
So.
All right, so you went to school in York.
And
one-room schoolhouse.
It's still there. And then they transferred us, they closed it down, then they sent us to West York for the 5th grade. And then they closed that school. And they sent us to Hudsonville for the 6th or West Union, 6th and 6th grade. And then we ended up at Hudsonville for 7th and 8th in high school. I graduated in 1964. Went to my first school reunion, 50 years. That just didn't seem possible.
50 years ago.
50 years.
That was 3 years ago.
Do I?
Was that 3 years ago? Your 50th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 or 3 times.
What was the neighborhood like in York? A
lot different than today.
How many houses?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. There was a lot of them. And everybody helped one another. The river come up, everybody was there. You got yours moved first, neighbors came in, helped you, whichever ones got water first. And then we just went down the road, started helping all the other neighbors. It was a close. It was like a big close family. Everybody helped everybody.
How often did the river come up and flood?
Well, I remember my first one was I was 11 or 12, because it was our job to carry all our clothes over into my uncle's house in the attic. So I don't know. It's more recent now than it used to be. The river's filling in, so it gets higher each time.
Do you still have family that live there?
I got an aunt, and she moved to the hill. Her husband moved her to the hill before he passed away. So that's that, and a cousin. That's all I've got left. There's not much left down there.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how York happened to be settled?
No, Grandma's talked about it a lot, but I don't remember that much about it. Far back as I can remember, is we still had the ferry. And I remember a truck pulling onto it, and chickens ended up in the river. Poor things drowned it in their carts. But that was the last of the ferry.
The ferry at York?
Yeah, at
not
York.
The Darwin ferry?
No.
Yeah. Okay, you went to see. What did you do for, leisure activities back in those days? Back when you were a child in York? What did you do to have fun?
We played games. Us girls had a clubhouse. We played house. We had bicycles. Put together bicycles, piece by piece. We made our own little go-kart. It's things kids wouldn't dream of today.
Did you
There
swim?
wasn't any place really to hang out because there just wasn't. There was no. The only things we had in town were bars. We had 2 taverns. But
2 taverns in a little town like yours?
yeah, at one time there was 3 of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Some guy from here come down and built one. It didn't last very long though.
Had a lot of out-of-town visitors then.
Yeah. Well, we had friends from Kansas that would drive all the way down there on Saturday night
Is that right?
and then drive all the way back to Kansas. They'd bring their kids with them and they'd hang out with us until the bar closed. And
Was it kind of a rough?
yeah, but it's been known to have some rough times down there.
Yeah.
But it's gone now. It burnt down, so.
How many kids were in your schoolroom in your one-room school house?
We had, we had all 8 grades.
Well,
But I can't remember just how many. I'm trying to look at my school class picture. I'd say there was maybe 30 of us. That's a lot of kids in one room.
yeah.
And I remember my first teacher, Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Francis. Isley France I'll never forget her.
Was it heated by a coal stove?
Yep.
Who maintained the fire?
I think her husband did.
Oh,
I think he did it. When he'd bring her to teach, I think he went in and took care of that.
so it would already be warm by the time you
Yeah.
got there in the wintertime.
Of course, when we went to West York, they had bathrooms and they had heat down in the basement. I suppose it was coal. I can't remember. But it was a 2-story school.
So you have brothers and sisters?
I have 2 sisters. One of them still lives in West Union. They lost their home. This last flood we had, it finished it off. And they bought a place in West Union. And she lives there. My other sister lives in Robinson.
So you decided to move to Florida.
Well, the kid's father, he went down there to find a job, and he sent for me. And then I'd never been away from home. I didn't know if I could handle it or not, but I went. We stayed there for about a year. It's a nice place to visit. It was Pensacola, but I was ready to come back home. So, and then we moved several places after I came back.
Around here, around...
Well, I lived in Hammond, Indiana. One of my kids was born in Hammond, Indiana. And I had one born in Sullivan, the other 2 in Terre Haute. So
So you have family pretty close.
yeah.
When and where were you married? When and where were you married?
More in Chicago courthouse. Judge married us.
In Chicago? Mm-hmm. Really? When was that?
1968.
So you weren't too long out of high school.
No, and that was my second marriage.
I see.
The kid's father.
Okay. You said you worked at TRW. Did you have other
36
jobs?
years.
36 years at TRW.
And I couldn't wait to get out.
Really?
Yes, it was a long 36 years.
What kind of work did you do?
I was just on the line. We put together the boxes and set off the air conditioners. And over the years, they had all kinds of things. One thing would go out and they'd bring in something else. So we made heaters when I first started. Well, I went back to winding. I did that right after I got out of high school. And winding coils. And then it went to heaters. We made the heater fronts for car heaters. And of course the cars just kept expanding and they kept putting us on different things. I worked with IBM parts for a while. But when I quit, we were making airbag component thing.
When did you retire?
December 31st, 2011. Day of freedom for me.
What modern conveniences have affected you most, would you say?
My first TV.
Really?
I was in the 5th grade before we got a TV. My first TV. And after that, it was probably a power mower because I done all the mowing. I loved to mow. And my uncle finally got a power mower because I mowed the whole neighborhood because we all lived together. I'd mow Grandpa and Grandma's too, so power mower. And then what else would be our first bathroom.
First bathroom.
Our first bathroom. And I was a freshman in high school before we got that. Dad went to work for the state, and he made more money then, so.
Did you have running water in your?
Yeah, we had running water. We had for the kitchen sink. Mom had running water in there, but we just never did get around the bathroom. And going out to the outhouse at nighttime, I did not enjoy that. Dad would run, he knew I was scared of the dark, so he ran a light out there so we could turn it on at the house. So that was a real biggie.
So you had electricity.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
It was well water though. It wasn't. You didn't
Well
have
water. Yeah. And the well water is still there, and we still use it. My nephew put a cabin on there, and they have a fish camp there every year. Mm-hmm. So the old well's still there.
Speaking of the river, did you fish? Were you a fisher person?
Dad and the guys, my uncles all fished. My uncle, Herb Pinkston, he sold fish down there. He had, and my Uncle Howard, he helped do it too. And the guys all squirrel hunted. We always had plenty of that. Mom always had a huge garden, and she'd fill that cellar full. At one time, we counted 350 jars. Thank God for a cellar. I wish I'd paid more attention to her when she was doing all this. We helped her, but our heart wasn't in it.
It was work, hard work.
I can can green beans, but that's about it. Nothing else turned out very good, so I didn't try it again.
People used to come from Marshall and maybe Terre Haute down there to buy fish, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Back in those days?
My uncle sold a lot of fish. Mm-hmm. He had one guy come a long way for the caviar out of them.
Yeah.
All those eggs. Uh-huh. I don't know how anybody ate those.
You never tasted them?
No, didn't want to. They didn't look good to me. But he always saved them for this guy. He came a long way. I can't remember where he came from, but they was always saved for him.
Well, they're considered quite a delicacy by some people.
Yeah, and then my job was to help wash them. He had double sinks, and they'd put them in the first one and get all the blood and stuff off of them, and put them in the next one, make sure they're good and cleaned. Then my aunt would wrap them, freezer paper.
These out of carp?
They got to where they was going to start throwing the carp back because they're so bony, and Mom had a fit. So they saved the carp for her. She canned it, and you wouldn't have known the difference between that and canned fish. We made patties out of it and loaves.
Yeah,
it was good. That paper made me think about all these things.
Any historical events stand out in your mind? Any national events that occurred?
Well, I thought about that too. I guess the first one was the Vietnam War. I had my first boyfriend joined the service and went away. That was scary, thing. And a friend, knowing they were there, and I guess too, President Kennedy. I was a junior in high school. That hit hard.
Yes.
We were real Democrats back then. You didn't want to talk about anybody but Democrats. So
York was a Democratic
stronghold.
Well, that's okay. It's interesting. Anything else you wish to add? Anything else comes to mind you can think of?
I can't think of anything.
How was Hudsonville High School? Did you like going to school
Yes,
there?
I liked Hudsonville.
You rode a school bus, I assume?
Yeah, I rode a bus.
Now they're talking about consolidating with Palestine.
Oh, I know.
Is that an issue?
But I don't understand that because it's just part of it, and then our part goes there. So they're still got some. I guess they're eliminating one of them, but I don't know. I didn't understand how they're doing that, but York isn't what it used to be. It's like a big forest now, junky forest.
Is there a West York?
There's so many, yeah. There's so many people have bought land down there because of the high water. People are getting rid of it. They don't want to live down there. And people are coming from like Chicago and places like that and buying the lots. And they put their campers on it for the summer, you know. And it fills up with four-wheelers and you name it. And then so many homes have burnt down. And they just let the lots go. And now they're just like forests. I can only think of one nice place in town. That's where my nephew's got his cabin. They keep it clean, and there's no junk. It's bad down there. And my aunt is the only, Wayne, my aunt Cassie and Wayne Swartz, I think are the only two left down there from when I grew up. All the rest of them are all new people. So it's just Clark boys are still there. And then as you get out of town, there's a few still around. But
Are these out-of-towners that come down?
they come down, yeah,
Are they
they
well
come from
behaved?
everywhere. They come from everywhere. The land's cheap, so, and they can fish, and it makes me sick to drive down through there anymore. It's just, everything was so neat back when I grew up. Everybody kept their yards mowed, and you didn't see trash everywhere. And of course, it don't help with the river coming up and spreading all that around either. So now most of them are just waiting for FEMA to buy them out.
FEMA, the federal
I don't think
government.
it's ever going to happen.
No.
This has been going on since 2 floods ago, I think.
Does it flood about every year?
Yeah. It gets higher each time when it comes in. It comes in different anymore. Used to you could track it, and you knew who was going to get it first, who was going to get it second, and how fast it was coming. Anymore, you can't tell. I mean, it's there. It's just there right now. You don't have time. So I don't know. The river's filling in, and it just don't hold all that water anymore. So. But this last one we had, it run my sister's house. Hers was one of the higher ones up, but this time it got in it. So, and she had hardwood floors, beautiful hardwood floors, and it just buckled them all up like this. You couldn't even get the doors open.
That's a shame.
It just ruined it. And of course, it stayed in so long that the basement was nothing but black mold for us. So it's.
Is there a West York?
This is York.
I know, but is there a West York?
Yeah, it's just a few miles up over the hill.
And it's
It's
still
about as bad. It's just about as bad. People come from everywhere to get cheap land, so of course, and then they're still not far from the river, so I don't know. I enjoyed growing up down there, though.
Well, I think that about covers it.
Well, I enjoyed doing this.